Stephanie,
Hello.
the beautiful lady in red, surrounded by red. If they're
It's not
watching.
even my favorite color, which I think is funny.
I love it. Yeah, you and I were just speaking a little bit before we press record, and there's a lot that I want to go and dive in deeper. I was like, oh, just kind of hold that thought.
Uh-huh.
Um, but I'm so grateful to have connected with you in just a short amount of time. We've gotten to spend a lot of time together in Nomad Land.
Yeah.
And I'm excited to introduce you to the world here inside of the space in between. But I just like to keep this really open-ended. I know it's like a really lame question, but who are you and where are you in the world?
My name is Stephanie Schroeder. I am a beautiful spiritual being enjoying this wonderful journey called life. I'm here in Indianapolis, Indiana. I think I always say that my heart and soul belong in Mexico, but I am stationed here in Indianapolis. And yeah,
I love that. So, yeah, I always ask that question because I feel like you get so many different answers.
yeah.
Yeah. And so I'm curious why Mexico?
That's a really great question. So I studied Spanish when I was in high school, and this was back in the early 90s. And I remember it was around the time that the Olympics were being held in Barcelona. And I
Mhm.
was like, I want to go to Spain. So it was my dream to go to Spain, to go to Spain, to go to Spain. I was in college, fast forward to college, and I knew that I was going to do a study abroad. And when I went to talk with this, and I was like, I want to go to Barcelona. And when I went to talk to the study abroad officer, she did what she's supposed to. And she said, well, what are your goals after college? And at the time, my sister and I had just gotten back from a trip to San Diego, fell in love with San Diego. And I was like, I'm going to be in San Diego. She goes, well, then doesn't it make sense to go to Mexico and study the Mexican dialect since it's so close to San Diego? And I was like, oh, yeah, that makes sense. So I picked Mazatlán, which is on the west coast of Mexico, because it was in the Tropic of Cancer. My zodiac sun sign is Cancer, and so I was like, that seems aligned.
Mm.
The moment I stepped foot in Mexico, got off the plane, my luggage didn't arrive.
Mm.
I couldn't hear anything because I didn't know that my ears didn't pressurize
Oh,
the you know what I mean.
yeah.
It
Your
didn't
ears
pressurize.
didn't pop yet. Yeah.
Right. And 2 days before I left, they changed the family that I was staying with.
Okay.
So like I had all these things come up like around this trip.
Mm.
Um, but it felt like home. As soon
Mm.
as I got out of the security, as soon as I met the family, she had two young boys. As soon as I went to their house, it just felt like I was at home. Um,
Mm.
and that was over 30 years ago, and I feel like it's just been calling me back, and I continue to go back. And I cry every time I leave Mexico because I'm leaving home.
Mm.
Yeah.
Do you have any like family connection, like ancestral connection?
Not that I'm aware of. No.
Interesting.
No. I just
Where?
I think either in a former or a future life I was Mexican.
Yeah. I mean, you kind of have similar features, you know.
Yeah,
I
and
wouldn't be
that's
surprised.
one of the things, a lot of people are worried about travel to Mexico or have been worried about traveling to Mexico. And like I said, I've been traveling for over 30 years and I have never once felt unsafe. I think part of that is I speak the language fluently. I do kind of look the part. I have similar features. Um, but yeah, yeah, so it just feels right.
Yeah. So why haven't you moved there? Like, why haven't you gone home yet?
Ah, that is what I've been working on. It feels like ever since I first stepped foot. I was on my way. I
Mhm.
became a high school Spanish teacher. My goal
Okay.
was to get to California, to San Diego, and then eventually down into Mexico. And then I met my kid's dad. And
Oh,
then we got pregnant. And so I've been here in Indianapolis raising my children who are now adults. And
mm.
so the timeline has sped up quite a bit.
Okay. That's beautiful. And so now you feel like it's time to spread, like Mama's needs to spread her wings and fly.
Yeah. And there are actually been a few times that, of course we all have self-doubt, but there's been a
Yeah.
few times where I'm like, I don't know. And my oldest daughter looked at me, she goes, "No, Mom, you need to go. This is your dream." And I'm like,
Mhm.
"You're right, I do." So my
Oh,
kids know me so well. And they're like, "No, you've been wanting this for a long time." So
yeah. That's amazing. And so like when you go to Mexico, what does that relationship look like? Do you go back to the same places? Are you traveling? Have you traveled all over? Like, 'cause yeah.
really, my ambition is to traverse the entire country. I remember when I lived in New York City for a while after college, and I was writing a Fulbright grant because my intention was to go traverse Mexico, write poetry, take photographs, and just be immersed
Wow.
in my home, right? Um, I have traveled to quite a few places in Mexico, not quite the entire country yet. Um, I've gone back to Mazatlán a couple of times to see my family. It's actually been a couple of decades since I've seen them, which is sad. And host mom's about to sell her house, and I'm like, oh, if I could just get there before you leave, I'd really love to say goodbye to the house.
Mm,
So that's kind of on the bucket list, but I don't know how long it'll take for her to sell the house.
mm,
I mostly, for the past 10 years, have been traveling to the Yucatan. I have
mm,
really good friends and connections that I've made along the way. I started going there when I was teaching high school Spanish, and I first took students to explore the language and the culture.
mm.
And I just keep going back to the Yucatan because I don't know, that's just where I keep going.
Yeah. What is it that feels like that's pulling you?
It's definitely the communal aspect. Like it really I feel like those are my people. I feel very welcomed and supported. I feel like I'm a part of something bigger than myself there. I mean, I do hear a little bit, but I feel like in most US cities that we are so divided. There isn't a lot of unity, and that's what really pulls me to the Mexican culture and the Mexican people is how united they really are with each
Mm,
other and how united they are when welcoming guests into their home. And just
mm.
they're so friendly and warm and just they're just a beautiful people and I just really am drawn to that.
Yeah. I love that. And do you have, like you said, you had a host family when you first went. Do you have some sort of like host family in the Yucatan now?
I don't know if I'd call them a host family. I mean,
Yeah.
they're like
Yeah.
definitely, I have
Yeah.
stayed with them. There was, in 2019, I took a 2 week, this was right after I'd left teaching high school and was transitioning to teach yoga. So I took 2 weeks where I went to Mexico. And I was actually supposed to meet my host mom in Mexico City, and we were going to go to another part of the country I hadn't seen. And 2 days before, she canceled on me. So it was
Mm,
literally 2 days before I was getting on a plane. I had to figure out what I was going to do in Mexico City. And it worked out. I found a yoga workshop. I met a woman whose husband worked for the US Embassy in Mexico City. Um, and then I went to the Yucatan to meet up with my friends and to go into the jungle and do some shamanic practices with a friend of mine who's a practicing shaman. So I ended up staying with what I would call my host family in the Yucatan, but um, they're really good friends, and I see them every time I'm there. I
that's
don't
great.
always stay with them. I stayed with them the one time,
Yeah.
but
Yeah, but you've built that relationship with them.
yeah.
That's amazing. And so, okay, you said so you were you're teaching Spanish in high school for how long?
I taught high school Spanish for 15 years.
Oh, okay. And then
Yeah.
you've shifted into teaching. I know you're a yoga teacher, but I didn't know
Mhm.
this part of the journey. So, like, what did that journey look like?
So I knew that it was time to move from teaching high school Spanish. My whole body knew. And I, well, there's lots of layers here. So I had actually started what I call my spiritual quest in 2016. And through that, I started to dip more into some healing modalities, yoga being one of them. The Dalai Lama had come to Indianapolis for a talk, and I went to that. And so I started to just like, what are some things that I can take that are going to help me heal? This was on the tail end of losing someone pretty close to us. And
Mhm.
so I really knew that things needed to change.
Mm,
I was practicing yoga because I was also a runner. So I really needed that for my body. And then like most people, when they get into their body, then they start to get deeper and then it gets into the spiritual aspect of it. So I joined a yoga teacher training program just really to get the depth of the yoga practices for myself. Really didn't have intentions of teaching at the time. But then through deepening my relationship with myself through yoga, I knew it was time to leave teaching. And so, um, my plan was to use yoga as the catalyst to move me to the next thing, which I think I'm finally there. I'm moving into the next part of,
mm.
what I want to be in my life.
Yeah. Okay. Can you go back to that moment, or maybe it was a period of time where you were recognizing, you said in your body was actually telling you, like, this is done. I'm done teaching.
Yeah,
Like, what did
yeah.
that look like? What does that feel like for anybody who's not necessarily knowing how to read the signs?
Sure, absolutely. So I actually had developed a drinking problem.
Mm,
So I was drinking a lot every night. And it really came from I was exhausting myself um, day in, day out
mm,
at teaching. And so I never felt like I had an opportunity to recharge. So then it started to show up in my body. I was drinking heavily. I was gained a lot of weight, just sluggish, heavy, um, just didn't feel like myself.
mm,
Um, and so I knew that things needed to change. And I was trying to lose the weight. Um, so a lot of things kind of happened at once. I quit drinking. Actually, I had quit drinking after this, but I had become a vegetarian with the hopes that that was going to help me lose weight. And there were other reasons why I chose the vegetarian diet. And then, so really all of it happened at once. I decided to quit drinking. I decided that I was leaving my job to focus on healing for myself um, and to move into teaching yoga more full time. And then the pandemic happened. So,
oh my gosh.
yeah,
You became a yoga teacher and then the pandemic happened?
that's correct. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay. We
Yeah.
definitely need to unpack that a little bit. But yeah, keep
Yeah.
going.
Yeah. No. So, yeah. So it just really, and I was on medication for an anxiety disorder. And I don't
Mm,
really like to say disorder, but I didn't have my anxiety under control. I didn't have coping mechanisms. I didn't have ways of managing it. And yoga really brought that to me. In fact, I didn't stop drinking until about 6 months after I became a yoga teacher. And then just through the practice and looking back, there were several years where I tried to quit drinking and I don't, I mean, I guess I don't want to say I failed, but I just kept coming back.
yeah.
Um, and yeah, it just was around my twins' birthday one year. It'll be 8 years in November. I just decided that was enough and just stopped. And I haven't
Mm,
looked back. And yoga has been, even through the pandemic, I didn't drink. That was hard because it was so fresh. I quit drinking in 2018, um, quit my job in 2019. Then we had, of course, the pandemic. But yoga is really what got me through a lot of that.
yeah. Oh my goodness. There's something about this practice, right? When we're going deeper into the practice, not just the physical practice of yoga, because we're both yoga teachers,
Yeah.
right? But it's also the philosophy, right? Like going deeper and deeper into self and that
Hmm.
svadhyaya, that self-study, that we
Hmm.
get to that place. And yeah, similar to me. I mean, I never necessarily thought that I had drank excessively. I lived in the city too, New York City too. And so you know, it's like part of the lifestyle of just going out and that's how you socialize with people. But I remember when I was doing my I think it was my first, I think it was the 200 hour. Like I got massively sick one night, didn't even drink that much. It was just like
Hmm.
maybe one or two drinks, and I was sick for a week. I'm sure it was something else, but in my mind it was like, I'm done.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's like the yoga practice actually happened to us and through us,
Yeah,
right?
exactly. Well,
Yeah.
what really helped me get through sobriety was, I don't know if you know, I'm sure you do as a yoga teacher, Deborah Adele's book, The Yamas and the Niyamas.
Mhm.
Oh, I love that book so much. It helped really put a lot of it into perspective and allowed me, it's such an easy way to read it and the way she dissects it,
Yeah.
just really helped me embody those practices more.
Yeah. Yeah. The yamas and the niyamas for anyone out there, it's like basically like our 10 commandments,
You're
right?
right.
Yeah. Like the do's and the don'ts. Yeah.
Yeah. And another, just to plug some more reads, another read that really helped me was The Four Agreements by Don
Hmm.
Miguel Ruiz. And that book, that is my tenets. Those, I read that book several times every year because it just helps me stay grounded.
Hmm.
And my kids, they even know if I'm making assumptions, they're like, "Mom, what's the third agreement?" So they
Oh,
keep me in check. God love them.
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Okay, so I want to unpack this a bit because, I was teaching yoga before the pandemic, and I definitely have seen the evolution of this. Oh, I don't like the word industry, but you came in at a very interesting time
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
teaching yoga. What was that journey like?
It still has been. It's been a very
Yeah.
difficult, like, to get your footing unless you
Yeah.
own your own studio, which for a moment I thought I wanted to do. But it really doesn't suit who I am. I am an
Yeah.
educator. I am a guide. I'm a leader. And so the business aspect, the managing of that did not appeal to me. And so, and a lot of studios, local studios closed down during that
Hmm.
time.
Yeah.
And so it's really hard to say because I didn't really get a lot of opportunity to experience the environment before the pandemic. And then, of course, yeah, during the pandemic, we couldn't do anything. So I'm trying to do online stuff without even having a following because I was still fairly new to teaching yoga. Um, so yeah, it's been an interesting 8 years.
Yeah. And you're still
Yeah,
standing.
I'm still standing. And I've come to that point where, like, energetically my body is telling me, or my mind, all of it's telling me it's time to shift.
Hmm.
I want the practice to come back home to me and be
Mm.
less about guiding. I mean, I will always guide others because that's who I am, but I want it to be less about how I'm serving others and more about how I'm serving myself, if that
Mm.
makes sense.
Well, unpack that a little bit more. What does that mean for you?
Um, yeah, so I guess what I mean by that is the my yoga practice has diminished quite a bit because I've been so focused on how to make sure everyone else is taken care of, which is the very mothering thing to happen to do. Um, what I have noticed in my own practice is shift more to meditation. I find myself sitting more in meditation than the physical, the asana practice, the physical practice. But even still, because I'm devoting so much of my time, I don't want to say time, but because I've paired my teaching of yoga with making a living, it doesn't bring me as much joy as it would if it wasn't something so specifically tied to income.
Yes.
And so that's kind of what I mean when I say I want it to come back to be a practice for myself.
Yes. I 100% resonate with that. I see
Mhm.
it all the time leading yoga teacher trainings and how, and I actually just said this with Lori on her into her episode, but when you step into that teacher training, I always say like the honeymoon's over
Yeah.
because you get to sleep with it every day and wake up and it's like the morning breath's there, like all the
Yeah.
stuff, right? You're looking behind the curtain. And then what you're saying, it's like you're really pouring into other people and holding that
Mhm.
space for their own transformation and safety. But then there's the whole business piece.
Right.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
that kind of takes away what you just said, the joy. It can potentially take the away. I know some people just love the business part of it and thrive, but it could potentially hold that for you. And so I know you are in a major shift right now, and I definitely want to talk about more about that in a second, but um yeah, I think there's something to speak to that a little bit more too, of just this claiming, like, what does that ideally feel like for you? Is it just literally having more of a space for a meditation practice? Like, what is that vision for you?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think a lot of it really is finding my own consistency in my own practice. And I think
Yeah.
that if I were more disciplined in making myself sit every day, that I might have a different perspective. And it's
Hmm.
actually, most of the past couple months I've been waking up pretty early, and I could definitely devote that early time to a meditation or a quick physical practice. I just don't. And I don't know why. I'm not making that change now. I'm not sure if I'm answering your question.
No, you are.
Okay. And so, I feel like what's really interesting is a lot of times, even yesterday, this happened. I was talking to a client after class, and I don't know what I said, but she said, "Well, remember, you always tell us this." So I'm like, "Okay, you're listening, and now, putting it back on me." And so it's always a nice reminder, that what I am doing is making a difference.
Hmm.
And, um, you know, part of bringing the practice back to myself would be um, just engaging more with that svadhyaya, that self-study, coming
Hmm.
back to that.
Yeah. And it sounds like you're doing that every day. It's just not literally on a mat. It sounds like you're
Yeah,
out in the world, you're testing your ways through these variations, right? Like we do the practice to practice in life, right? To take it off the
exactly.
mat. And it sounds like you are doing, and just I know you.
Yeah, yeah,
The little that I know you, I can very much tell that you are in the self-study.
yeah.
But yeah, it's really interesting because there's a thread through the last couple of episodes around this, and you didn't say the words, but you said one of the words, is this idea of the expert. This is what Greg was saying in an episode a while ago, like the expert versus the guide. And what
Mm,
I love for what you were just saying is like you're so honest. You're like, yeah, I want to get up early and meditate. I am getting up earlier, but I'm not. And there's something powerful in owning that and
yeah,
also being curious about it and also not being ashamed sharing it.
right,
Like
right.
that, I think is what makes us more of that category of guide, which I definitely resonate with because who wants just the expert telling you what you should be doing and having this whole
Mm,
perceived, preconceived idea that they have this perfect life and they get up every morning and they do this consistently and it's so
yeah,
perfect and right. And then it's like it's not really attainable. Like
right.
it's sort of these expectations that probably aren't real. They're probably presenting it to a certain, I mean, I'm sure there are a lot of people out there that are like the Tony Robbins that probably are like super,
Yeah, one of
consistent.
my yoga teachers, I know for a fact, she's up every morning. She practices the same breath work, the same meditation, like because we did a I did a silent retreat with her, and I witnessed it, like I saw her
Yeah.
getting up. And again, that could have been performance, but I don't think it is.
Yeah. Well, and also, I mean, I know you did your one-on-one with Lori, who's this, helps with human design, but like we're all designed, and whether it's human design or astrology or whatever, it's like we all are designed differently.
Yeah.
And it sounds like you you know what you need, but you're also giving yourself the grace to,
Hmm.
if you're not doing that, like giving yourself the grace to say, okay, maybe this isn't for me, but also, but why not, right? You're being
Yeah.
curious right now, and maybe something's going to shift here because you're seeing that pattern of, okay, let me.
Yeah, and you said this, a lot of my yoga practices have come off the mat. Like
Mhm.
I know when I'm ultra anxious, the best thing for me to do is to go get lost in the woods. And I hike the same trail, but I get lost every time. I always end up coming out of it, but I'm like, I never take the same path, or at least it doesn't seem like it. But just being, around nature or in the middle of it and with my breath, with my feet touching the earth. Like
Hmm.
if I could be barefoot 24/7, I would. I mean, I would say I'm 22/7, right? Like most of my life is barefoot. That's what I prefer. And um, I think a lot of people, when we talk about yoga, they have the physical practice in their mind. And that's kind of what I was saying earlier is that I've moved away more from the physical practice and I've moved more into the spiritual practice, which is what I wanted when I sought this the certification.
Yeah. And actually, like speaking to the business piece of it, I almost feel like because I've been witnessing the business model of yoga, and yes, you're right. Like the physical practice is only one of the eight limbs of yoga,
Right.
and the West really has, you know, monetize that, and that's what people tend to see and think, oh,
Mhm.
warrior, down dog, that's the
Right.
practice. But what I think also contributes to the business model of yoga as somewhat crumbling is because they've gotten to a point in their spirit, like my teacher would always say is there's so many ways doors in, but you're going to get the benefits of yoga, all of the benefits of yoga, right?
Right.
So for me, it was a very much a physical door of it was my physical training for dance. But
Yeah.
some people might come in through because they have anxiety, right? And they want to do the breath work, or maybe it is the meditation, but we're going to get all those benefits.
Hmm.
And what I'm just like hearing from you is like, you know that your yoga practice right now is to be in nature, to be barefoot. And I almost feel like that's also part of the detriment of yoga studios closing because we did our job so well that people are
Yeah.
like, let's actually take this out into the world, off the
Hmm.
mat and practice off the mat in the world, which is like, oh, we actually were doing a good job. We were putting ourselves out of business.
Yeah. 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 Well, and and also I feel like the flip side of that is the oversaturation of like
True.
there are so many YTT programs. I
Oh God,
even
yeah.
started one because I'm an educator. I'm like, oh, this feels so good. And I was doing a pilot program with one of my client friends, and it was funny because I remember telling her, I was like, I can't tell you the last time I actually practiced Shavasana. And she goes, she's like, I don't think I want to teach if I can't practice Shavasana. And it was just such a beautiful moment because, and my first yoga teacher that she made it very clear that if you do nothing else, Shavasana is the most important part
Mhm.
of the physical practice. And and I do miss that a lot, as I'm teaching because sometimes I'll move through the practice with my clients, but I don't usually because I'm watching, I'm guiding, I'm pontificating, which is funny because I say that, but that is the feedback that I get most often is how I pair the spiritual Dharma talk in my yoga classes. Just
Mhm.
last week, someone said that that's what they really appreciate. And I'm like, that's a very consistent piece of feedback that I get. And so it's important to me to pair those things together.
Mhm. Yeah, I think we have similar styles of teaching.
Yeah. Yeah. I can't wait to take one of your classes.
I know we're gonna do that at some point.
Yeah.
No, and I definitely agree with you. I mean, the teacher yoga, it's so saturated. And that's what I usually see is people do open the studio, then they need to make a lot of money, so they run the yoga
Yeah.
teacher trainings. Then people get their training. They don't have a spot for them, so they go across the street and open up their own studio.
That's
Or
exactly it.
now they have so many yoga teachers that want to work for free that the people who are more veteran teachers who need to make X amount because they put in the hours and the time,
Yeah.
they're like out. That's basically why I retired because I
Well, that's
needed
what
to.
I'm feeling, right? That's
Yeah.
why I'm feeling, okay, I have yoga as my catalyst has served its role. Let's move on.
Yeah.
And while I'm moving on, I still have to do it, right? And so I still have to show up.
Yeah.
And some days are harder than others because I just really want to be done. I want to move on.
Yeah. And you are moving on.
I
And that's
am
what
moving on.
that's what I want to really like we would kind of just went into the space in between of how you get to the moving on. Like, what is the moving on for Stephanie?
Well, I mean,
I know.
I have I want to get back to Mexico. I want to guide people through Mexico. So part of that is, yes, yoga. I started out the idea of these retreats as being yoga retreats, and through actually running them, they're not I mean, yes, we do a physical practice, but it is more about the spirituality.
Mm-hmm.
And I pair that with the spirituality of the land, of the Mayan people, of the Mexican people, of what people can experience when they're in a community that's caring and loving, what they can experience when they walk down the street and nature is among them instead of like in our cities where it's all concrete, right? You walk down the city in Mexico City, you walk down the streets and it is lush. And that's a big metropolitan city, and it's just so lush with nature. Um, I'm sorry, I kind of got off on a tangent.
No,
But
you're passionate. You keep
yeah,
going. There's
yeah.
no
So that
direct
is my
line.
passion, is to really share that with the world. I mean, Mexico has been in my heart for as long as I can remember, and I just want everyone to feel what I feel when I'm there. And so I want to guide them through that
Yeah.
and, create the experiences for them to discover something new about themselves. So that's really where I'm transitioning, is how do I get myself into Mexico, and then also how do I support bringing others to Mexico and to experience, the spiritual wonderment that is the Mexican Mayan people.
Yeah. And you're saying you want to, but you're already doing this. You've been doing this for
Yes.
yeah. So what do those experiences look like and feel like for people?
Well, I don't know if you want me to like explain the itinerary. I don't know really how to
Well,
answer that
just
yet.
like, yeah, like who's coming on these experiences? What draws them to it and what are they getting out that maybe they didn't even realize that they were co coming for, you know?
Yeah, yeah. So I think the biggest thing is sort of this detox, right? Detox
Mm,
from their routine, detox from social media, and because that is kind of what I ask of them, is just let it all stay in your home state.
mm,
Come here and just be ready to receive. Like I literally manage all the details. I plan all the activities. I have the people who are local, who support us. It's really about giving them the opportunity to just open up to receive, which a lot
mm,
a lot of times we don't have that because we're bogged down by paying this bill or making this phone call or doing this task at work or home or whatever the case may be. And so it's really about giving people an opportunity to just shut all of that out and just come inward. And
mm,
so a lot of what um, the words, the lyrics that people say when they talk about the experience is that it is a pilgrimage or it is a transformation.
mm,
That they don't expect to receive, they don't expect to transform into another person from this experience until it's over, and they're like, wow. One of my former clients said that she came home and she just felt more present. And
mm.
that really hit home, right? That I was able to provide you with an experience that you came home to your family and felt like you were more present than before.
Yeah. Yeah. So they have this pull of, oh, I know something needs to change. Maybe I'll do this like kind of detoxy thing
Yeah.
and go to with Stephanie on this experience. And then they like become an entirely new person.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and
That's,
I've had clients who've repeat clients. They keep coming
yeah,
back. They
that's
enjoy it
amazing.
so much. In
Yeah.
fact, one of my clients requested a private tour in Mexico City, and we did that this past May.
Oh, wow.
And like I'm literally like just in like heaven walking through the city and just being surrounded, but like I don't know how to describe it. I am a totally different person when I'm in Mexico. Like
Mm,
because it just feels right. And so, I'm happy, my eyes are wide open, I'm looking at everything, and literally on the plane leaving, I'm bawling my eyes out because I was like, I don't want to leave.
yeah.
But just, the fact that not only has he come on all of my retreats, but then requested a private tour, to see, like, he's like, have you ever been to Mexico City? I was like, yeah. And he's like, let's do it. And I'm like, okay. So we did. And, what I really love about the connections that I've made is I was able to connect with someone in Mexico City based on a connection that I made in the Yucatan. And
Mm,
so it's those kinds of relationships, that the building of relationships, that are really important for me. And I think that's true for the clients that come with me.
Yeah, it's so important. Relationships are so important.
Hmm.
I think that's, not to shift it away from this, but what we do at nOMad, because there's so many like sites, algorithms of finding your own, next retreat and just plug in, I want to go to Mexico in February. And oh, here is this lady, Stephanie, like you don't
Yeah.
know the person, but it's really about building those relationships
Hmm.
and seeing what kind of magic unfolds. So I love that you've cultivated that. And it's funny, before we press record, you were saying, this is one of the reasons why Lori was telling you in your human design to be in a community. And you
Hmm.
said, yeah, I've just been trying to get into a community. Do you want to speak to that before? But
Yeah,
yeah.
like literally. So my most of my before I entered the fifth grade, we moved around a lot. So I have
Mm,
sort of always had this like yearning for a sense of belonging. And
mm,
it just feels like I haven't quite hit the mark, right? I've been
mm,
trying, I keep trying to insert myself in certain places. And, it's not for lack of me not trying to create these and build these relationships, but just haven't really found until now, I haven't really found the right community to call home. And
mm.
I think what I said to you before we started was part of my rationale, and this was definitely coming from the mind and not the body, was, well, maybe I need to create my own community. And in a sense, I have,
Yeah.
um, but it's not the same, right? Like,
Yeah.
well, I don't know. I say that, but it is the same. So I'm creating my relationships, and that is my community.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to say because you said that earlier, and then I'm listening to you. I'm like, you have created your
I
community,
have.
Stephanie. Like
Yeah,
you,
I have.
but I understand. I mean, Nomad's my baby, and so
Right.
yes, I was the one that helped create that, co-create that. But there is something nice to just like, it's not your home, so you can just come in and relax and not feel like you
Yeah.
have to take care of everybody. So there's something beautiful about being able to come home to a place where, yeah, you don't have to clean up after everyone.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, maybe that's what you're also looking for.
It sounds like it. Yeah.
And maybe that's what you found at nOMad, so that you can come
Yeah.
and just like, be here and not
Just
worry
in
about,
here.
just be yourself. And I'm wondering, have you ever done like gotten your astrocartography chart read?
I haven't. I
Do you know
mean,
what that is?
I don't. I've done astrology, of course, and I've done human design, but I don't know what that is. Uh-uh.
Ah, we need to find an astrocartographer for you because astrocartography, they read your natal chart and they see the different lines um of that moment of like when you came into this world. And I'm anybody out there who's an astrocartographer and they're like, that's not correct, so I might be butchering it, but it's basically like there are different lines. If you look at the globe, there's different lines, like your Venus line and your
Oh, yeah.
Jupiter line and all this. And you can kind of pinpoint where you should live according
Mm,
to that design, that chart. And so it's basically like your birth chart, but over the globe.
okay. I've heard of it, but I
Yeah.
didn't know that's what it was called. I am
Yeah. And
intrigued.
I feel like, yeah, you have these different points in Mexico that are just like lighting up. I would just
Hmm.
be curious to see like what's the Yucatan? What's Mexico City? Where's the
Yeah.
first place to where, sorry, where were you on the west?
Mazatlan. Yeah.
Mazatlán on
Mazatlan.
the west.
Mhm.
Like I feel like these are like little like they're just I see them like lit up
Yeah.
your
Yeah.
chart. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd be curious.
What would be funny is if Mexico wasn't even on it at all.
True, true.
But I don't know. It doesn't matter because I can feel it in my heart that that's not.
No, you can feel it in your
Yeah.
heart. Yeah, I know that feeling. Like just traveling in general, there's
Hmm.
something there. And I don't necessarily know if it is the US. Like I don't, because I have, the more that I started to travel outside of the US, I was like, oh my God, I feel so much more myself. And I was like you,
Yeah.
I always thought I was going to live in Spain, and I've been
Oh,
there
that's
so many
funny.
times. I know when you said that, I was like, oh my God, my Cabbage Patch doll. Did you ever have a Cabbage
Of
Patch doll?
course. Yeah.
I saved up for that Spain one. They had like a little
Oh,
series of like
yeah.
international Cabbage Patch dolls.
That's so
And I
funny.
would ask my dad every day, like, can you take me to whatever, Toys R Us so I can look at it? Like I was
Oh,
obsessed. But yeah,
that's so
so I
sweet.
have that connection.
Did you end up getting her?
Oh yeah, I did.
Oh,
Yeah.
good. Yeah.
I can't remember what I named her, but yeah, she had the little flamenco dress.
Of course. I love that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I love that.
But yeah, back to you. Um,
That's okay. This is a good
no,
conversation.
yeah, I just love that for you. Like to be able to have this sense of community, like you're creating that for yourself, but
Mm,
you also have this other place
hmm.
in Mexico, right? That just feels like you're gonna get to go there. It feels like you're
Yeah.
moving more towards this longer commitment of time.
Hmm. Yeah, I am. And it almost feels like it can't happen quick enough. I'm kind of at that stage, like I feel like I've been waiting for so long. But it really isn't that much longer.
Mm. So what is this looking like? What is this transitional time look like for you? Like, what are you doing?
Well, I've done a lot since February. I've done a lot of work in really trying to figure out what the next thing is,
Mm.
and that's kind of where so I've been building to have my own retreat space, or I don't sanctuary space in the Yucatan, and
Mm.
invite people in to maybe host retreats. I don't really fully know exactly what it's going to
Mm.
look like. I'm still kind of building that. And that's when I got to a point where I was like, okay, I can't quite make it there on this alone. I need to be able to get people, I need to reach out to people. I need other people who want to come on my retreats. And that's when I met you and we
Mm.
started this beautiful journey together. And so it's really my journey moving forward is to continue to um, get people to come to into my community, get people to come to Mexico to experience this transformation for themselves, to be led and to be guided, with the intention that my original plan was by October. I think I've had to push that back.
Mm.
But I want to, even if it's temporary, be down there more full time,
Mm.
and work from that space. And I'm still really trying to figure out what that looks like.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so in the between, I still want to get there and I still want people to experience what I have to offer through the experiences that I create in Mexico.
Yeah. Right now you have two retreats
Hmm.
that you do annually. Can you
Hmm.
speak a little bit more about those?
Yeah, so when I actually going back to when I started teaching yoga, my plan was to I really wanted to do 8 retreats a year, which is very ambitious because I really wanted each of them to be paired with the natural shifts of the seasons.
Hmm.
Most people know the quarter shifts, the equinoxes and the solstice, but there are the cross quarters as well. And so
Hmm.
I really wanted to hit, and 8 is probably a little too much, but each 8 of the 8 notches of the season of the wheel, I wanted to get into nature.
Mm.
And so my first retreat is in October. It's the end of October. And it right around Samhain, right around Day of the Dead. Like there's a lot of spiritual activity globally around that time of year. And so I wanted to include all the spiritual aspects that I could that made sense to combine with each other and the Day of the Dead and looking at ancestors because we all have ancestors. Our ancestors go beyond our bloodline. So this is really also about the ancestral magic and wisdom of Earth itself. And to go to a place where it's just already thriving and it's already just ripe for connection.
Mhm.
And so that's the fall retreat in October. And so we go right before the Day of the Dead in Mérida, which is where we go. It is the capital of the Yucatan. And um, so we get to experience some of the Day of the Dead celebrations that the city puts on. And part of that is we build, on the first night of our retreat, we build our own ofrenda, which is an altar. And I ask the participants to bring a photograph of someone who they've lost. And we build an altar, we get the flowers, um, we go to the market and pick out some trinkets to put on the altars. And then, I invite everyone, if they're willing and open, to discuss a little bit about their lost loved one and what they mean to them. And then we, through the week, we keep connecting to ancestors and through nature, through our own just remembering. And yeah, we get to celebrate some of the Day of the Dead activities that the city puts on. So yeah.
So cool.
Yeah, and then the spring retreat is more of a shamanic experience. So I have a friend, like I said, who's a practicing shaman, and he doesn't own the land. He says he's the guardian of the land, the jungle. And I swear to you, every year I'm there, so much has changed. Like just the transformation this land has taken in the past 10 years that I've known him is just astounding. And so the spring retreat happens right around the spring equinox. And so it's really, we spend 3 days working with shamanic energy. So energy cleansing. That retreat I call restoring balance. So it's really about clearing out all the stagnant energy through these shamanic practices so that people come home renewed and refreshed.
Mhm.
And one of the most exciting parts, I think, but this is just my personal preference about that experience is on the solstice at sunset at Chichen Itza, the way the sun
Mhm.
hits the main temple, it
Mhm.
looks like the serpent god Kukulkan is moving down the temple.
Mhm.
And so oh, I got goosebumps just talking about it. Just to experience that
I
natural
just did too.
phenomena, right? Like the Maya were sky watchers. And so they were very I'm full of goosebumps, but they were
Me
very
too.
in tune with nature and their zodiac follows Venus. And so when you mentioned Venus earlier, I just like my brain went the Mayan, right? And so so their zodiac follows Venus instead of the sun.
Mm.
Um,
I love that. I didn't know
yeah. Yeah. And so I actually already am thinking about a third retreat at summer that focuses on the moon goddess. So that one would be probably a woman only retreat to focus on the moon goddess. I haven't, other than just writing a few notes, that's as far as I've gotten with that. But
that.
yeah, I'm excited.
Planting
Yeah.
the seeds. Ooh, I
Yeah.
love this. I love that so much. I love that this first retreat you're talking about in October, there's just this honoring of the past, right? Of
Hmm.
our ancestors. I didn't realize that fully.
Yeah.
Um, we'll have to talk about that offline,
Okay.
how to bring that out more, the
Yeah.
marketing
Sure.
piece, because I
Yeah.
think that's really powerful. But yeah, I can see where you're going and how you're building out this cycle, right? And this
Hmm.
beautiful, yeah, it's just you're kind of going through this whole story, this whole journey with people, whether they come on 8 retreats a year or just one retreat a year, maybe they try them at different times,
Yeah.
but I can just see what you're building and it's so beautiful and so
Yeah.
powerful.
Yeah.
I love that.
Thank you. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
exciting for me. And it's exciting for me that you're connecting to it.
Mm. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I love a good retreat.
It's funny, I've only been as a participant on one retreat.
Oh no, we need to get you to a
I know.
mastermind retreat.
I
Uh-oh,
so
Stephanie.
want to. Yes, I
Oh
need to do
no,
that.
uh-oh, you're just been called out. You called
I
yourself
know. I
out. No,
called myself out.
I'm not gonna let you go. You gotta come with us.
I want to, yes.
Oh my gosh.
Because
Yeah.
I need to receive, right? I give so much of what I have to offer and who I am, that I often am not in the seat of the student. I'm often
Right.
not in the seat of the receiver. And so
Yeah.
I know that, there are often times when my cup is completely empty and, I need to, and most of the times I refill it by going out hiking, which I'm very fortunate that I live close to the state park. Um, but like, yeah, I need to receive that medicine as well.
And what you're just saying, yes, we can go to the state park and go for a nice hike, but there's something about being held in a container,
Yeah, exactly.
right? And just being able to be seen, right?
Mhm.
Nature can see us, nature's seeing us when we're going on that hike and we see nature.
Yeah,
But
nature knows
there's
more about me than me.
exactly,
Yeah.
right? But there's something, I mean, gosh, it's so hard to be a human.
Yeah.
I sometimes I'm like, why did my soul want to be this? Ah.
Yeah. Why did we
But
choose? Yeah.
yeah, but there's something powerful, even though it's really hard to be a human and and relate with other humans sometimes.
It is.
It's important to be in that container and be held and
Hmm.
seen. And that fills your cup up in another way because yes, you're filling yourself up, whether you're going through your own level of healing or grief or whatever it might be, or just to like, yeah, get some rest. Um, but then you also come back with new ideas and new
Absolutely.
ways of just pouring into your community. And
Mhm.
that's what always feel like, and some people will say, "Oh, I went on a horrible retreat." I was like, "That's great. Good. Go on the horrible retreat sometimes because you're going to get the contrast, right? And you're going to
Right.
realize like I'm not going to hold space like that for other people."
Yeah.
And not to talk down to anybody else, but it's like that was might even just have been a created situation for you to receive so that you can make sure that that's really not going to be your story when you're
Right.
holding that for other
Right.
people.
Yeah.
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 Yeah, because
Mm.
I don't know. I don't really have, I mean, I've created what I feel like is our beautiful retreats, but I mean, not that I want to compare it to other retreats, but like I don't know how other people do it. You know what I mean? How are
Yeah.
they holding space? And, so it's yes, being held, but it's also learning from how other people do it as well.
Yeah. Exactly.
Mhm.
Exactly. It's so important.
Mhm.
So important. But there's something else I wanted to say to that, but it just left my brain.
It'll come back.
If it's necessary, it'll come
Yeah,
back
that's
for
right.
sure. Yeah. Well, is there anything that we didn't talk about that you want to touch on here, Stephanie?
I don't think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what it would be. I'm
Okay.
really better about answering questions than just, I mean, I can teach and I can bring you content, but when it comes to me, I'm better when see people are like, "Hey, tell me about this about you." Then I'm more willing to talk about
Yeah.
myself. Yeah.
Yeah. But there's nothing that's like lighting you up that you're like, oh my God, we didn't talk about this. I really love this.
No.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Well, we danced around a lot of the things that light you up already. I know.
Yeah. Yeah.
The Yucatan, Mexico in general, holding space and as a yoga teacher. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love it. And we've also got to talk about our love for Spain. That's what like started
Yeah.
the adventure for both of us.
Yeah, I did actually make it to Spain. I did eventually make it to Spain. I was studying there for my master's program, and
Okay.
I have a master's in teaching Spanish. And I will have to say that I was actually pretty disappointed.
Oh.
Well, I mean, sadly, the first time, because my kids went with me the first summer that I was studying there, and literally a week before we left, their father died. And
Mm.
so
Oh
we had
gosh.
traversed, the plans were set. Like I was studying, I thought
Wow.
about canceling. Lots of people encouraged me to continue through. It could be a bonus. It could be a positive thing.
Mm.
The kids, while I was in class during the summer, they were at a YMCA camp in Spain that I found. And so they got to learn some Spanish. But I would take them every morning. I would take them to the camp and then I would walk to campus and I would just bawl my eyes out.
Mm.
And I don't remember exactly how the conversation went, but I ended up buying a big pair of sunglasses because it was just inevitable. That's when I let loose. So I bought these big sunglasses to wear because I knew I was going to cry. And then, my kids recognized that those were my crying glasses and that, they were, I mean, 5 and 6 years old when this happened and they were holding that
Mm.
space for me. And it just knowing that, we needed to find some sort of healing. So I think that sort of tainted the experience for me.
Mm.
And I had already fallen in love with Mexico and the Mexican people, and just the personalities are completely different. And
Hmm. Yeah.
so it was really hard because, and I'm going to say this, a blanket statement really about the European experience is a lot of times, and I don't mean this as a dig, but they're just colder. They're not as warm. They're not as welcoming. They're not as
Mhm.
open arm, come in. That doesn't
Yeah.
mean they're not nice and they're not friendly. It just
Yeah.
is a different sense.
Yeah.
And so I had waited my whole, I don't remember how many years at that point, but I had waited so many years to finally get to Spain. And
Mm.
then I just was disappointed. But the second summer I went, I did get to travel more because the kids weren't with me. So I got to see more parts of Spain. And there would be pockets of Spain that if I were to live there that I would probably enjoy.
Yeah. I get you.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, it just sounds like it's interesting that you landed there, having that your heart being pulled towards it at such a young
Mm.
age,
Hmm.
and then it held you in a really hard time in your life.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
something about that. I'm
Yeah. No, I
interested to
didn't really
see.
think of it from that
Now
way.
I like really want your astrocartography read. I want to hear like what was that? What's that line?
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
like your soul kind of knew you needed to be there for this
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
potential.
That's a good point.
I don't
I haven't
know.
reflected on that, so now I'm gonna
I
have to.
know.
Yeah.
That's what happens in the space in between.
Yeah. I love it.
We see things from a new perspective.
Hmm.
Well, if people can want to continue on, potentially even come to Mexico with you,
Hmm.
how do they follow you? How do they find you?
Well, my business is Creative Nature, and so my website is creativenature.life. That's also my tags on Instagram and Facebook. Um, yeah, I don't, that's really it. Are those
Perfect.
things, yeah.
And you do
And of
have,
course, within the nomad community. So,
I know, besides Nomad, yeah, I should have said it. Besides Nomad, because you're
yeah.
over in Nomad too. And can you tell people again when your retreats are in?
Yeah, so the October retreat is October 24th through the 30th
Mhm.
in Mérida, which is the capital city of the Yucatan. And then the spring retreat is March 16th through the 22nd. And I'm still
Okay.
working on my landing page for that one.
Well, that's all good. They're
Yeah.
going to go and just start following you and start the conversations. But
Yeah.
yeah, the one in October, that's more of the ancestral one, bringing in the spirit of someone you loved past.
Hmm.
And then the spring one's the shamanic one, where there's like a
Yeah.
refresh renewal.
Yes.
Yeah.
Restoration, restoring the
Restoration.
harmony of life. Yeah.
Mm. Okay, and this is a question I ask everybody.
Okay.
What at the end, like, because you're in the space in between podcast, what is the space in between for you? What does that mean? And where are you, like, are you experiencing it now in your life?
Oh. Yes, I would say I am experiencing a space in between. One of my clients actually said this to me semi-recently, as I'm moving through this transition, that I am both on the on-ramp and the off-ramp. And I was like, that's the perfect way to describe it. Like I'm going and coming. Like, and so I think that that's it. The space in between is about the transition.
Hmm.
And I have always my life has always been a series of transitions. And I feel like even in the past 8 years, they've sort of sped up. Like I feel like I'm constantly renewing myself. Like I was just
Mm.
looking at my business plans and I started a renewal in 2024 and here I am again 2 years later renewing again. And so I think that's the space in between for me is this kind of trial and error, even though that's not necessarily my design, but this like constant transformation, this constant coming back home to myself.
Mm. That was kind of, oh no. Don't remember when I said I had a question for you?
Yes, that was it.
There's something there. And now it's not a fully formed thought. We're gonna have to do like episode like the what is it like the not the epilogue, but the epilogue. Yeah, we'll
Yeah, the
have to do like
epilogue.
yeah, we'll have to do an epilogue.
Okay,
When the
I'm
question
game.
comes in, I'm like, oh, it's almost there.
Yeah,
Anyways, well, I'm so happy we get to spend time together,
I
Stephanie.
am too. Yes, thank
Yeah,
you.
yeah. And everyone out there, definitely check out Stephanie and come to the Yucatan.
Yes, please. Oh, let me show you around.
Yes.
Hmm.
Thank you.
Hmm.